Welcome to PoliceMotorTraining.com. I'm Quinn Redeker. Today I just wanted to walk you guys through a intersection pattern. This is a great training pattern, great practice pattern. One of my favorite things about this pattern is that it's a constant motion pattern. So what do I mean by that? There are really no areas where you get to rest in it at all, which is really cool. So if you're working on improving your skills or doing motor competitions, this type of pattern is something you don't just jump into. When we do basic motor schools, for example, this particular pattern isn't something that I put anybody in until maybe week 2.5. I mean, if they're really good, we'll give it a shot. But typically, somebody will drop into this thing and they'll fall right out of it because it's just so complicated. Really tricky, busy pattern. You're constantly moving. So my goal today is to just kind of walk you through what that looks like, okay? So I wanted this kind of bird's eye view so that you could see the pattern and just see some of the things I'm walking you through in hopes that it makes sense. Couple takeaways. When you do this pattern and you can get through this pattern properly, what you're going to notice is it improves your brain. Like, it just gets you quicker on making the moves that you need to make in a tight pattern. And in most motor competitions where you do have tight patterns, this practice on this intersection will really take tight sections and just make them a lot easier because you have to just move quick in your transitions. So let's walk through this thing. And there is no beginning and there is no end. So this thing's kind of like life, you know. It's just, well, I guess there's a beginning and end there. Anyways, so we're going to walk you through sort of what's going on in my brain, what I'm thinking about. Some of the drills that I do, balance ball. So that means I'm staying right on top of the bike. This particular pattern benefits from a lot of counterbalance. So when I'm coming in here, we'll just start with this left hand U-turn. When I'm coming in here, yes, I want to go deep, but I want to really drop that bike over and counterbalance and stay up over the bike. And again, I'm going to demonstrate that while I'm riding. But I'm up over the bike, loose on the arms and relaxed. Now, we talk about rapid transitions as another one of the drills that I cover. And a couple of the things that are important with rapid transitions is that you get the bike over quickly, but that you get it back quickly. So how do we do that? Well, there's two things in this pattern I'm going to use to throw this bike over left and right. I'm going to use the clutch. So when I'm over here, I'm leaned over. Now I've got to pick the bike up immediately because it's going there. As you can see, this is one smooth S. There's no brakes in this thing. So how am I going to get it from here to there? I don't really have a lot of momentum, and I just don't have a lot of room. So I'm going to use this clutch. I'm going to let the clutch out. I call it a clutch pop. It's just subtle, and it picks the bike up, helps power to the rear end to really lift the bike up, but I'm also pushing with my feet. Again, because I'm up over the bike and I'm balanced, I'm getting good leverage over the bike. So I'm clutch popping, I'm also pushing down with my inside foot, and I'm bringing the bike around. Again, staying right up on top of it. Same thing, now I'm over here. Now I want to get the bike from this lean angle over the other way. How am I going to do that? Clutch pop, push with my inside foot, and I'm going to bring the bike around. Also staying nice and smooth on top of the motorcycle, okay? So we're talking about rapid transitions because hopefully from that angle you can see there are no straight sections in this intersection pattern. If you try to cut these patterns tight and you take what I call V's instead of S's, you can get through maybe one, maybe two of these, and then you're just going to start clobbering cones and you're going to fly out. The challenge with a pattern like this is how do you set the bike up properly? And one of the things a lot of newer riders, guys in motor school, screw up is they come through here and say, okay, well, I want to go here. Well, if they go here, it ends up pushing them out here somewhere, and they just don't have enough distance to clear this particular 18. And by the way, this is a little under 18 width and about a 21 and a half length. Normal intersection is 18-22. This is a little bit tighter, not much, but I don't have tall cones, so it really makes it super easy because obviously there's nothing to hit. So I'm digressing a little bit. Just understand that when you're going through a pattern like this, as I said, there's just no areas to rest. But if you look at my arc, if you look at my distance from here, these lines to these lines, this is an 18-foot pattern, but I'm probably, in this particular area, using most of it except just this little spot after I've completed my turn. Why? Because I'm going to need to come out here in order to set up to drop into this one. And that's the unique thing about this pattern that makes it just constant movement, okay? So, where are we? So we're over here, we're leaned over, we're looking ahead. I drew arrows on those inside cones. That's kind of where I focus. I have a thing I call Ghost Rider. I measure myself about a second and a half ahead of wherever I actually am on the course, like a kind of a ghost version of myself. So these, though, are the markers in a pattern like this. Don't get too busy with your head and eyes to spend too much time looking into the deep corners if you don't have to. And I'll get into that in a second. But so I'm leaned over here. Now, same thing as over here. Now I want to go that way. Well, I need to transition. So I'm going to push down with this foot up over the bike, pop that clutch a little, throw the bike over, full lock. Okay, so I come through here, clutch pop, bike's up, push with the inside leg, and I'm down. And once I'm over here again and I swing out, I pick that cone up. So that's kind of the easy way around this thing. I'm going to demonstrate this on the bike and just kind of show you. Here we are. So this is the intersection. I want to walk you through a couple things that we talked about that you're going to see me do. First of all, like I said, you get a bike like this through here, it's a pretty big, pretty tight pattern. So you're going to notice a couple things when I go through here. First of all, balance ball. Let's stay on top of this motorcycle, okay? What else? Like I said, that clutch pop, and we're going to pick up our speed a little bit as we go through here, but I just want you to understand that right here, you're noticing I'm making S's. Look what happens if I try to cut the course out. Now I'm out here. I can't make that. That's too tight. So I got to stay in that lock. Lock. I got to stay in that lock. I'm using my feet, and I'm staying on top of the bike. Now, let's talk about where my head and eyes go, okay? Because before we get to that, let's pay attention to the clutch. I'm popping it right here, popping it there, popping it there, popping it there. And every time I'm saying that, popping it, it's still in the gray zone throughout all this whole pattern. But I'm just using a little bit of power to help pop that clutch and pick that bike over. Okay, if that makes sense. And I'm pushing down with my foot every time. Now you'll notice, again, like I said, I'm not cutting this course. I'm making S's. It's a workout too, by the way. I'm getting too old for this stuff. So now that we've worked on that, let's talk about a little bit head and eye placement. So from now on, I'm going to pretend I'm a second and a half ahead. So let's just see where that looks like. Puts me about there. Right here. Here's my head and eyes. All right. So obviously, because this pattern is mostly, it's a U-turn and a 90, you should practice this both directions. If you're not comfortable with one direction, you need to just focus on it. Okay? So one of the things you're really going to notice is that clutch pop and pushing with your feet. And look at my butt. My butt's coming off the seat every time I push down with my foot. All right? So, a couple things to talk about. So I was warming up with this pattern. I like it. I have a figure 8 here. If you're not familiar with my balance ball concept, this should illustrate it pretty good. I'm really trying to stay balanced on top of the motorcycle. Nice and smooth. Oh, looks like I hit the cone. That's great. 3-second penalty. All right. So we'll take a little break here in a second. But one of the things I love about the figure eight is just getting as smooth as I can. And now remember, the key to going fast is being smooth, but it's also finding those little areas to accelerate. So in this, listen to the engine. Clutch is out all the way right here. I have it out all the way. So I've got to find that gray area. I'm not falling over without that gray area already set, because that's risky to add lean angle without having that gray area set, okay? Another thing you can do with this figure eight that I like is this drill. It's just practicing. You're leaned over the whole time, but it's getting comfortable accelerating the bike under lean. See that? So I'm not really moving my body around. I'm just kind of sitting on the crack of this seat, but I'm feeling the back end a little bit. It's setting up that clutch throttle a little early. So that's just little things you can do in here to improve your skills. I love the intersection pattern. Really one of my favorites by far. So let me just finish this up one more time so I'm not dizzy. Work the other direction. And if you notice, I talk about body position. I've got those mirrors in my face. I can see them. So you're really counterbalancing and staying on top of this bike. We're not screaming the engine. Yes, I'm applying a little rear brake. And the reason that is, don't get me wrong, this is not a rear brake generally. The rear brake just masks a bad clutch throttle control. But in my case, when I'm doing two things. I'm doing a clutch pop. If I didn't have a rear brake for that, the bike would just take off. Whew. My legs are on fire. Whew. All right. So there you go. A couple things to practice if you're not comfortable with that, or you're not ready for that, is that clutch pop for rapid transitions. So what does that look like? Listen to my engine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the clutch and change direction. Listen. So now I'm going to do it again. So just by itself, listen. It picks the bike up and throws it over. Now, if we concentrate on balance ball and staying on top of this bike while we do it, it means we're in the right position at the right time once we transition to the other direction. Now, we add feet. And it's just so much. The bike just flies over to the other side. I love that about it. It just makes it easy. I'm using the power of the clutch. But as I mentioned, if you do that in a pattern, let me fix that. That's just a disgrace. My apologies. 3 demerits. I know. But if you do that, man, it just makes this pattern so much easier. And I'm able to attack it a little more, which is nice. You know, you can really just kind of push your bike because it's just snapping around. So pretty cool. Great example of a pattern that's simple, but really kind of has everything you need to improve your skills. Oh, and if you do it right, it'll wind you. If you do it right, you're going to feel your legs. In a normal motor pattern where I'm going back and forth, it definitely catches my legs on fire. Because, I mean, really, think about it. You're just kind of doing that. And you're moving your weight at least. So you're kind of doing one-legged mini squats throughout this whole thing. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. And one quick thank you to Richard Kieran for the drone. Big advocate and supporter. So hopefully this footage comes out pretty good and you guys like the angles and vantage points. It's a little windy today, so hopefully it didn't move around too much. But again, appreciate it, Richard, and thanks for all your help.